Hello, folks, and welcome to Got Your Back, YEG. Oilers in action last night, dropped a game to the Seattle Kraken. Oiler fans not feeling so happy about that today. It's the way they lost that game. You know, they had a 2-0 lead and then absolutely spit the bit. Spit the bit, by the way. My big brother Rick reached out this morning and said, "You've been saying that a lot, hey?" Like, he just sort of noticed that. You've been saying that a lot. Have I? I don't know. It's like these crutches we develop sometimes when we're on air a lot. We say these things and we don't even notice. So thanks for the professional development, brother Rick. I say spit the bit too much. I'm going to get to Jason Strudwick in a second. First, a reminder that Got Your Back is brought to you by Mr. Dirk, located just off White Avenue and 102nd Street. It's your one-stop shop for all your clothing needs. If you're a businessman needing to look sharp at your next meeting, or if you want to tighten up that look around the office, they got a wide selection of great suits, shirts, ties, shoes, everything you need to make that statement that you are on top of your game. Or if you just want to freshen up the casual wardrobe, they've got plenty of that as well. Jeans, pants, shirts, sweaters, belts, and shoes. I was in there last week. They're nice and stocked up. They got everything you need. Mr. Dirk, a great place for quality clothing of all types. Struddy, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you, but I never hear you say spit the bit. Although I agree with your brother, it's one you should probably never use unless we're in 1920s. So I don't know. I disagree with your brother. You say it all the time, but I agree with him. Like, not only should you should never use it unless it's 100 years ago. Like,
yeah, just should never do it. Well, he actually texted me this morning because I did the morning mandate on 1260, and he texted me right away. He's like, "You're saying spit the bit quite a bit, hey?"
Oh, okay.
And I was thinking about it. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I think maybe you blame the Oilers for that because they've been kind of doing that a fair amount lately. So maybe it's more on them than it is on me. I'm not sure.
No.
But
it's still you for using that. That's like saying I'm up to some tomfoolery this evening.
You don't like that, eh?
What do you do? No, it's just old. It's like old-fashioned talk.
Hey,
I mean,
what are you up to there, fella? You up to your tomfoolery there?
I don't know.
Yeah,
not good. Not good.
I shouldn't do accents either. I'm going to get a text about that one too. Mm-hmm. See, what they are, Struddy, is they are called crutches. And we all have them in the broadcast industry. We have crutches, sure, right? And we develop them because we're trying to think on the fly. We're trying to talk on the fly. Plus, for me, I got all this technical gobbledygook I got to worry about during the podcast as well. And so what happens is you need to give yourself a split second to think about what you're going to say. And so you develop a crutch. So, for example, you'll hear certain people, I'm not going to put names on it, but you'll hear people say, when you think about this, blah, 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 blah. That's their crutch, so it gives them an opportunity to gather their thoughts and then say what was going to be on their mind. We developed them as broadcasters. Rick pointed that one out to me, spitting the bits. Oh, that's just a saying I'm overusing. Do you have any crutches that you're aware of, Struds? I wonder if our listeners have any thoughts on crutches that they always hear us say that annoy us.
Well, I definitely have crutches, but first off, let's put another word on you shouldn't use, gobbledygook. Let's put gobbledygook, tomfoolery, and spin the bit all in the bin of we're not using it. We're trying to update this to 2023. I have some for sure. I don't know. I think that maybe when I start slurring, stumbling, that's my chance to check in. Yeah. But no, I at times I think I repeat the question. You know, I think that you'll say, what do you think of this player? Well, what do I think of this guy? This is what I think. You know, I think that's something that buys me time. But I do try to have as you're asking me a question, I try to think of an answer as you're talking and not answer right away. That's something that I was taught pretty early in my career. But it doesn't always work.
Yeah, it's easier said than done. A little professional feedback for you here if you're open to it. I mean, I got your back here. Like we're trying to make each other better, right? We're not just rambling along, not paying any attention to how we're doing. So I find you have more crutches when you host, right? Because you'll often host the Gregor show when he's away. And hosting, you need to do a little. It's less just answering questions and more having to organize your thoughts and drive the conversation and such. What's for breakfast, says Benzino 780. That's the first comment that I see on the live stream here. In the Reese Johnson Twitter mentions what's for breakfast. Let's just play along here, Struds. What do you have for breakfast today, buddy?
If I'm being honest, I've worked out this morning. I haven't eaten yet. So I'm going to go and probably have a 3-egg burrito. Yeah, I'm into it. I try to do it every morning. I really enjoy it for my mental health. Not that I'm having a lot of problems with that, but it just It helps. I just find it makes me a better husband and
co-host.
Well, I guess not wife. Co-host.
Makes you a better co-host.
I don't know why I'd say wife. Makes you a better wife.
Makes you better.
Podcast wife.
We'll leave that alone. So I think I found one of your crutches, by the way.
What is it?
Is by the way one of my crutches? Man, now I'm rethinking everything I'm saying.
I know.
I think one of your crutches might be, if I'm being honest, maybe. Like, why wouldn't you be honest?
Yeah,
like, why wouldn't you just be honest? Why do you feel you need to say that ahead of time?
Well, because there are some things I say that are a little bit in the gray area of truth, as far as stories that happened in the past.
Oh, okay. Right. But it makes people think if you don't say, if I'm being honest, before every answer, we're like, is Struds being honest right now?
Yeah, no, that's true. No, that's a good point. That's fair.
Somebody says, oh, for sure is a crutch of Jason Gregor's. So now we're doing professional development for Gregor as well. Yeah. Oh, for sure. They're saying as a crutch for Jason Gregor. Yeah. I say like too much in general as well. That isn't if I could change one thing about my my dialect, my dialogue, other than the fact that I would rather not have a pathetic squeaky voice. I'd rather sound like a broadcaster. Right. I say like too much when I'm talking. I find it's weak dialogue.
Yeah, it's a hard habit to break. Is another one. Not yours, but just in general.
I think
these guys are playing well. You know what I'm talking about. And I find that hockey players do it all the time. And my mom used to give it to me every time I did an interview, and I said, And so I've been somewhat broken. Doesn't mean I don't do it, but I think I'm somewhat broken the habit.
Yeah. Who was it was Jason Smith. Every question we used to ask him, he used to answer the first thing he goes, like he would do that. Yeah. He would go, just really high pitched, kind of like that. And it got to the point where we'd be interviewing him, and start of every question, I'm trying not to laugh because he kept doing it. Right. And it was, they could have lost 8-1. And he would just start like that, captain. And it just got funny. Look at you hydrating. That is a large blue cup.
It is. Yeah, I've had these cups for years. Like I'm talking 20 years probably.
Really?
Not going anywhere. Yeah.
Lots of comments coming in on the feed. We really like that, so we appreciate that. And we're going to get to some of them. Let's get to the breakdown of last night's game, the Kraken and the Oilers. The breakdown brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. That's my brother's company. My professional development also brought to me by DLR Vinyl Products. My brother Rick helping with that. Some of the nicest maintenance-free fencing and decking products out there. If you've always had that wood fence in your backyard and you're worried about it, it's getting sketchy, time to change. Give DLR Vinyl some serious thought because it's really, really nice stuff. It looks great the day it goes in, and it stays looking great for like decades after. I just said right there. Just did it again. Looks amazing the day it goes in, and it stays that way for a long time. It's better product, simple to use. DLR Vinyl Products, locations in Calgary and in Edmonton. And Rick, thank you for the professional development today. I might have some comments on the way you sell fences one of these days. It's my big brother, big brothering me. Okay, let's get to the game last night, Struds. Oilers had it in hand, 2-0 against a team that they've had the Kraken's number, right? So I think fans were probably feeling like, oh, this is going well. Oilers were feeling like, oh, this is going well. And then hit the brakes. Like Seattle pounds their way back into that game. What the Sam heck happened, Struds?
Yeah, I always get uncomfortable when I'm asked to make predictions in a game, and this Oilers team, I really have no idea. And I remember before the last game against the Kraken, I said I have no idea. I have zero idea what's going to happen. And yesterday I felt pretty comfortable. I said I thought the Oilers were going to take advantage of Seattle on their power play, which they did to start. And then Connor does what Connor does in that early in the second period. So it kind of started the way I expected or predicted. And then from there, just completely unraveled. And I would say it was a general lack of urgency in their collective game that got to them. And it's, there are certain players you can highlight, but you can just tell, I don't know if they stop competing. I think that's unfair, but they try to do too much at times. And I'm not just talking about the biggest, I'm talking about throughout the lineup, trying to make a play that's not there. And in case in point, when Bouchard gets the puck on his stick, in the slot, and he's trying to make a cute little play there. You've been under siege, and you're trying to make a cute little play. Your stick gets lifted, and it's in the back of your net 2 seconds later. Maybe that's just two quick steps, get it out of your front of your net or tap it away. Just like it doesn't seem like there's a alarm bell going off in anyone's head around their net when there's pressure on them, and they're feeling pressure from the other team. And that is a repeated situation we've seen with this group time and time again when they get into trouble with teams like Seattle.
Mike Dursa chimes in and says Seattle lulled them to sleep. Listen, I think that I'm going to get to Jay Woodcroft post-game here because he said something that raised my eyebrow when he said it. And I think my eyebrow actually went up as he said it in the press conference last night. So let's get to the Weiss Johnson soundbox here. Jay Woodcroft post-game.
Yeah, I thought we fell asleep for a 10-minute span in the second period there, and we made some uncharacteristic errors in areas that we typically have a lot of pride in. And it ended up in the back of our net. This is a 60-minute league. If you want to win, you have to be consistent with your play and your detail and your execution over a full 60 minutes.
You know the word that raised my eyebrow, Struds? Uncharacteristic. Mm-hmm. He said that, and I thought, I feel like we've been talking about that all year. I feel like we've been talking about attention to detail and stiffness around your own net all year long. I feel like those are not uncharacteristic mistakes for the Oilers. I feel like those are characteristic of what goes wrong for this team more often than not. And we've talked about it before. Jay Woodcroft is going to get up there, and we don't expect him to give us the unfettered truth every single night, right? Coaches need to shape things sometimes. Mm-hmm. So it's not really even a criticism of him so much in that he said that, but that is a characteristic of this group, and it's one that they're trying to get rid of and one that they haven't been able to so far.
It's funny when you watch them and they play well, you don't see these types of breakdowns, right? It's just like you eliminate those, you win. And let's even go back to the Calgary game where they won 2-1. There was a ton of shots at their net, a ton, but they weren't beat in those little battles around the net, lifting a stick, getting body position. Even the other night against Winnipeg, Kulak has body position, doesn't tie up the stick. And I'm focusing on the D-man here, but those are little things that when they do them well, the Oilers generally win. And I'm guessing that's for most teams. Yeah. But it is something that it's very clear. So I'm not sure that saying it's uncharacteristic is fair. I'd say it's unusual for them to win a game or to lose a game and have those things not happen to them. So it's so clear. And I wonder, as I was thinking about it last night, and I coach a couple teams myself, and I work a lot around our net, the way that you lift sticks and body position and battle. And I'm wondering if this isn't something that he needs to incorporate in every day into his practice, right? Yeah. It doesn't have to be long, but I'm talking 8 to 10 minutes, and you do it every time. And I know that players don't love it, but and you're there all the time, and I'm not, but it's an area of their game that if they clean that up, it seems like they have success. And when they don't, they really struggle.
Okay, we'll zero in on a couple of specific mistakes. I think the caveat being we've seen different defensemen do it almost constantly this season. The one that I feel like we haven't had a ton of Cody Ceci standing there in the wrong spot, staring around because a goal just went in. I feel like maybe net front he's been, and that's supposed to be more his specialty. We saw a fair amount of it from Darnell Nurse earlier. I think he's been better in that regard lately. But last night, Evan Bouchard and Brett Kulak were the two main culprits. And you point to specific goals where they're just not where they're supposed to be, paying attention to the right people. And Bouchard fanning on a puck where you just need to make a hard play in a dangerous area. So maybe one at a time, your thoughts on Bouchard's urgency around the net. Just start with him, Struds. Is this something this player can fix? Because this has been an issue since he arrived.
His body language projects as very relaxed guy, right? So that's how, when you look at him compared to Connor, who looks like he's vibrating all the time. And it's at times unfair to talk about body language, but I think when we're specifically talking about areas around your net and you look not ready to go, and then you repeatedly have these situations, you start wondering about the preparation for a young man. and that's why I go back to those practice habits. Is this something with Bouchard specifically they need to work on every single practice, whether before or after? So when I watch him play, he's generally in the right area. Generally he's in the right spot, but I don't think he has that spidey sense tingling when he's like, oh my God, there's someone right here beside me. I better go and figure this out. And I go back to the goal that comes right on his stick. It's on his stick and he tries to make a little tap play. Well, Seattle's all over you. They've been all over you for a while now. That's the time to get that puck out of there. And then in the third period, he didn't get scored on, but it was a 2-on-2 and Bjorkstrand dumps the puck just a little bit deeper than top of the circle, and Bouchard goes to play him. Bjorkstrand, who I love as a player, I should say, so I'm a little bit biased. He jumps to the middle of the ice, gets the pass back, and nearly scores. Bouchard is caught watching. He's just watching, and then he realizes, like, oh my God, I got to go, and he jumps back in there. But that's something you have to know.
Yeah,
you have to know,
I know
you've got
the
to stay
exact
between
play.
your man and the net.
The exact play you're talking about, Struds, and the other thing that caught my eye on that play is Bouchard was actually directing traffic on that play. Remember, he pointed. He was like, you go there. I got him. Like he seemed like he was on it. He was directing traffic where he wanted his partner to go, and then wasn't anywhere near where he needed to be. Yeah. And it was a grade A scoring chance for the other team. So even when he's there paying attention and on it, directing traffic, still, he got absolutely beat to the net, and just a lack of awareness of danger. It's like, I feel like he's that guy wandering through the dark house in a horror movie where everybody watching is like, oh, like, don't go in the closet, don't. And he just opens the door and walks in. His ability to sense danger in the moment seems like it's not snappy enough, man. He's missing that spidey sense. And for all the good that he does at the other end of the ice, and there's so much good, and in his puck moving and in the offensive side of it, this is just a demon from his game that he's been trying to exercise since he got to the National Hockey League, and we're still seeing it. Pretty shocking to me, the level of regression from Bouchard's game this year from the playoffs to here.
Well, what we're talking about here is linking it together. Yeah. So you're right. He directs traffic and gets it there, and then he kind of gets to the wall and he's like, oh, my job is done. But your job isn't done. You've got to link now the next part of your defensive play, which is in between Bjorkstrand and the net. Well, Bjorkstrand is a smart player and he's quick. And like I said, I love Bjorkstrand. He jumps quickly to the middle of the ice. The puck goes back to him. Bouchard's watching. And then he realized, like, oh, that's my problem. So you have to link. You got to keep linking all these things together. Then once you are between Bjorkstrand and the man, now you've got to try to defend that pass by either the body. I would prefer to take the stick, then the body. And then when you do, he's a big man, Bouchard is, so you can push him away from the net and guide him where you want him. So those are the next skills you kind of have to link together as a D-man. And it's hard. And it is hard because it's constantly being aware and constantly readjusting to where you are on the ice. But that is what elite defensemen do. And he's a young player, man. You can see it. Like, you can see it coming, but he's a young player and there are going to be warts in his game. Continue to be this year.
Did you see the tweet I sent asking people for comments? I tagged you on it. So hop on there and take a quick look at those threads, because we want to involve some people here on the live stream. So we'll get to the Weiss Johnson Twitter mentions here. 45 years in the business. Should you need a new furnace, garage heater, air conditioner, hot water tank, or any of these things serviced, Weiss Johnson is the place to go. And they got some awesome specials on right now. No GST on garage heaters, and 20% off all in-stock air conditioners when you purchase a furnace. So some real good off-season deals here from Weiss Johnson. 780-463-3096. Jingle. Okay, we'll go to the Weiss Johnson Twitter mentions here quickly. What do we got? I'm going to edit some of this because we're not, I wouldn't call us G-rated, but we're definitely not an R-rated podcast like some of them out there. So we'll edit some. On Bouchard, Gromanic says he certainly doesn't learn, as I'm sure the coaches have told him before. This is something for sure. Somebody like Dave Manson, these kinds of coverage mistakes just must be like, ugh. I mean, Dave Manson's game was rooted in making life miserable around the net for his opposition. Like, this is not something these players aren't hearing over and over and over, Struddy.
Well, let's just look at the other side. When Bouchard's on his game and he's passing and shooting really well, he makes life miserable for the other team's defenders, right? Yep. Like, that's what his job is. But it doesn't mean you can't kind of keep working on your defensive play, the defensive side of the puck. So it is hard. It is hard, and I honestly, like I said, you're there every day, so I'm not going to come. But I don't think they're putting enough time in. They have to put time in. As much time as he puts in shooting and passing, he's got to be working on his net front presence. So I remember what they do with guys that were struggling when I played with some teams is they take the extra players in this D-man and do stuff in and around the net, battling, competing. And that's kind of how you do it. You have to it's a trained skill, and it is a skill. I did it for a long time. I wasn't the most skilled player, but I could defend decently, against the average player. The great players, they couldn't wait to get me on the ice, but those average to weak players, I could defend them, right? And that's what he has. And so let's not just throw this guy out. I am not interested in, we're getting a lot of texts here. What is the market for Bouchard? I'm not into that. I'm not at all in that. I see so much good things. I love the way he passes, and his confidence is directly linked to his offensive contribution, of which there's very little right now. He had a spurt of 3 goals in 2 games.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's had much since then.
No.
Goal-wise,
there hasn't been much at all. I'll let you find another one. I'll go here. Yeah. Brian Wood says, with such high expectations for this season, is there more pressure to pull a trade ASAP to shore up the blue line with another brutal performance last night? What I would say is that I think the Oilers would like to make a deal right away if it's there to be had. But what you'll find when you try and get ahead of the trade deadline by a month or two is prices are really high, right? The market isn't really set, and teams are going to err on the side of wanting maximum return for their assets. So it isn't until more teams are talking and the market kind of gets set, maybe one trade happens to set the market a little bit. Shopping right now, I think you're paying premium prices. And some might think, well, then pay the premium price because you need the player and you need the upgrade sooner rather than later. I think there's a sense of urgency within the organization to fix the blue line. I'm just not sure they're willing to pay the higher prices that might be existing now. What do you got there, Struds?
Hey, guys, what did you think of Broberg's game? So when I look at Broberg, I think I really like the way he skates, and they did switch up the partners last night later in the game. So it was flipped. Kulak joined Bouchard, and then Barrie and Broberg. I don't know that Broberg and Barrie are the guys I want together, but I also don't want Bouchard and Broberg together. So you're kind of running out of options here about who to play with who. But there's a penalty kill play that I want to talk about Broberg again when I talk about the lack of urgency. Now I recognize they're down and they're trying to he's trying to make a play, but he's just inside the top of his own blue line, gets the puck, and in that situation, if you're going to try to make a skill play and a pass to someone who's maybe streaking shorthanded, you have to rifle that thing. So if it doesn't get to your guy, it goes all the way down. He tries to get a little too cute and kind of throws it.
I remember the play.
Little kind of, and you're like, oh man, I get it. I understand what he's trying to do, and he's trying to help the team out, but it comes back in their end, or it actually doesn't get out of their end, and it's in their end. So it's just those moments, right? God, just take that play and fire it. If the guy gets it good, if not, we can all get a change. And there's another time, actually, same thing, where he's a very good skater. He's joining the play, and the puck's dumped in. And I think the forward in question dumped it in for him to go and get it. And you're down 2 goals, and Broberg peels back. And I'm like, just go and get it. Just go for it. So I'm asking these guys to play on their toes and to go for it. And use your assets. Broberg could have got to that puck. I'm sure of it. I'm sure the way he skates, he could have got to it. And that's bring energy. And a guy who does that well is Darnell Nurse.
Yep. Fair point. Definitely. Blake Ewell says trading Bouchard would be certifiably insane. LOL. Yeah, I don't think that moving Evan Bouchard at this point that's not where we're at, I don't think, unless you're bringing in another significant piece that replaces what he brings and what he can give you in the future. You got to remember contracts, and you need guys that are not all making $5-6 million each. So I think that trading Bouchard right now is not the play. And I don't think we need to take the discussion too far in that direction. He needs to pick up his play. You've talked lots about how he misses Duncan Keith from last year, and I would agree with that. I think a player with that experience level, and by all accounts and talking to people, it's like he was an extra coach out on the ice there for a young player like Evan Bouchard. So definitely missing Duncan Keith sitting next to him, and instead playing with a pretty young guy in Philip Broberg as well, right? So they're going to have their difficulties. But overall, his play has regressed too far. Anything else there on Twitter you want to go to, Struddy? We go back to the Weiss Johnson Twitter mentions.
Yeah, so this was a tweet we got last night, and it was about Holloway. Okay. And it was I've talked about Jays, and I'm just paraphrasing. Basically, Strudwick, you've talked about Bouchard and the lack of plays getting from Woodcroft. Then he takes that double minor, and is that example of the immaturity you're talking about? And
it's a good question.
It was. I thought it was a really good question. I've been thinking about it a lot. It's so the intention he's trying to do. He's trying to create something, right? But Holloway's trying to get going and trying to lift the stick and trying to create and get on the forecheck, and I love that. So he's going, but in that moment, instead of moving your feet and getting right up to the next guy and trying to separate the guy with a check and use your big body, he's now reaching and hoping to lift the guy stick from a distance. So that's one of those young player plays where you're like, I love the intention. And so as a coach, if I'm Jay, I'm like, hey, I love what you're trying to do. I get it. But this is how I would suggest. Instead of reaching, take a couple hard steps, boom, separate the guy. Now we have the puck, and now we're on it, right? And those are those things that in those moments where you're down by 2 goals, you take a double minor. Seattle isn't, they're not a killer on the power play, but that's the lessons that Jay's just sitting there is like, how can I play this guy more when those are decisions he's making? And it's a young person's choice or decision he's making.
Okay. Agree with that. He's been accidentally breaking stuff all year. He goes in with the best intentions. I'll give you an example. I won't say which of my sons. My son comes into the office the other day and he's all high energy and he's just, he's got lots going on. And he's talking to me about stuff. Yeah. And I was kind of working, but I thought, okay, I'm going to take some time here and chat with him. And he's waving his arms around and stuff. And he leans up against the bookshelf behind me and the thing just collapses. Just boom, right? Like it just collapses. You're like, young kid, good intentions, lots of energy. Sometimes young, exuberant kids just kind of break crap. And I feel like with Dylan Holloway, like he goes out there and he's like 100 miles an hour in every direction. He finishes a check and makes an unbelievable play. And you're like, holy smokes. And then he back checks and high sticks a guy and is in the box for 4 minutes. And it's just like, like the most well-intentioned young guys break crap sometimes. And he's definitely been hurting his own cause a little bit with some of the mistakes. I mean, look at the year. He jumped on the ice and made a mistake for a goal against. The first thing he did this season. You want to talk about needing to build trust. He hasn't been able to build that trust back. But here's where you lose me in this discussion, Struddy. Jesse Puljujarvi's playing on the top 2 lines pretty much every night right now. Like, there was one mention here that basically said, and this is one of the ones I'm going to edit, but just basically the suggestion is made that, I'm trying to find it here, that Puljujarvi shouldn't be played anywhere near McDavid or Draisaitl. That ship has kind of sailed. I said that at the beginning of the year. Like, the number of guys who are getting these looks ahead of Dylan Holloway over and over and over and over again. It's not like they have these incredible options that are there, and and it makes complete sense to me. Like it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I know he's been breaking stuff and making mistakes. I still would love to see him get more than one shift with the world-class players that are available to them.
The reality is they're missing a key piece of this whole thing. And I'm not going to sit here and say that's why they're losing these games, but it doesn't help. Kane slots everybody down. Everyone gets pushed down. And make no mistake, as soon as he comes back, Puljujarvi's going down to at least the third line. That is going to happen for sure. I'm not on the Holloway train up to the top 6. I can't wait to see what he looks like in 2-3 years, but I just can't get there.
Okay. So you're not on the Holloway to the top 6 train. Are you on the Holloway to the American League train?
I have been since before Christmas. I think he should be.
Yeah.
100%. I've been very steadfast in that. I believe he should be there. He doesn't see that they make him close his eyes when he gets to the power play and the penalty kill. Like, how's he learning? Yeah. He needs to be sent down. I'm very clear and adamant that's what he should be doing. He should have been down there. Now, if they didn't have the injuries, I would have said mid-November. And now we'd be bringing up a player that have had 2 months feeling good about doing all these different things. Instead, this is where we're at. So I've been very clear on that. I would not change my opinion.
Feels like we're being hard on him by saying that, because every kid wants to be in the NHL. He doesn't want to go to the American League. But this is belief in this player. That's the reason why you think he needs to go to the American League. It's about my belief in the player. So you think playing 8 or 9 minutes a night here, Struds. He is in a desperate fist fight every shift to not get benched. Like, it's survival mode. Every game he starts out and the main goal is, can I maybe get some shifts in the third? Maybe. You know, that's like best case scenario for him. Is he still usable in the third period? Never mind banging one in. Never mind getting a look on a power play. Never mind, you know, and he's had some good shifts and some good looks and some successes here and there, but the bar is so, like, he's just trying not to get benched. He's surviving when they need him to be thriving. Dylan Holloway needs to thrive. So where will he thrive? If he's not going to thrive here, send him to where he will thrive. Because then, in a couple of months, when you recall him, you got this kid full of piss and vinegar who's been scoring goals and raising his arms and celebrating in the American League. Now you throw him and inject him into your lineup, and you're injecting a confident player who knows what it's like to go wire to wire in a game doing good things. Survival mode is so toxic for players, and he's in survival mode.
I want to be very clear on something. I am very bullish on all these three players that we've talked about, Bouchard, Broberg, and Holloway. And I also want to be clear. I'm not blaming the team's struggles on these three guys. Like, I have a vision of what these three guys can look like. They're not finished products, not close to finished product at all. I'd say Holloway's Holloway and Broberg the least two finished. I think Bouchard's trending hopefully to get there. But those three guys, I have a vision of them in 2-3 years what they could look like, and it's a very big part of this team. But they need to be managed properly. They need to be playing properly. And for Holloway, I will not change my opinion. He should be down the minors playing a ton on power play, penalty kill. I don't care first line center. I don't care who the first line center is down there. When he goes down, he's the first line center. Like, that is what happens. You're building up an asset that's going to be so valuable for this team. So I'm bullish on him. I want him to play.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I completely agree with you. Back to the Weiss Johnson Twitter mentions. This one kind of pisses me off. Daryl. And I get this crap all the time on Twitter. Sounds to me like a lot of bad coaching decisions. Time to start calling out Woodcroft. We're sitting here talking about decisions that we disagree with that he's making. So, like, what do you want me to do? Has he called out? Have I officially called him out? Like, we're talking about things that we think could be done in a different way. Everybody wants everybody to be called out. Like, Jay Woodcroft is in his first full season with this team. He took the team to the Final Four last year. Mm-hmm. He's not in any jeopardy, nor should he be in any jeopardy. And we're completely free to discuss decisions he's making we disagree with. Whether you classify that as calling someone out or not, I don't care. These are just the discussions we're having. That stuff pisses me off on Twitter. Like, everybody, call him out. Call out Ken Holland and call, like, we always criticize and discuss things that we think. Is that calling them out? I don't know. Anyways,
the calling out, I'm
triggered.
I'm not sure why it makes people feel better when you call someone out. You got to ask harder questions. I love when they challenge you guys who are in there to ask harder questions. Yeah. What question do you want to ask them? What are you going to make you feel better?
Like, I get that one all the time too. It's like, okay, well, we asked him, we ask him about not being aggressive enough at the trade deadline. We ask him about deals that don't work out. We ask him about deals that work out. Like, he's available a few times a year. And I think it's generally uncomfortable enough in availability considering the team has been to the Final Four once under his tenure, and overall they've improved. So I don't know. I'm not sure what people think we're supposed to do. We get in there and we ask tough questions when they need to be asked, and people might disagree with that. Anyways, we're getting sidetracked. This is getting a little bit goofy. Anything else there you want to get to?
But I think it's fair, just to follow up. I think it's a general frustration by the Oilers fans. They felt this was being cruise control. Yeah. And so, I believe that, and the friends I talk to, and then what I see on social media, which is always a hell of a ride, Oilers fans are frustrated. They feel that this should have been a first overall place team through the year. And, I can see what they're saying. It hasn't worked out that way. What has failed? I think that the goalie they signed, Campbell, hasn't delivered what they thought he'd deliver so far. I think he will find his game and hopefully push through. I think the Kane injury has slowed things down. I think that they're challenged with missing a defenseman in their top four. I think, they're hoping maybe Bouchard will continue on the way he finished last year. I don't think we've seen that from him. I think Broberg is still trying to find his legs. And then some of the other players, Pugliarvi hasn't taken a step forward. Yamamoto hasn't taken a step forward. McLeod's been hurt. So a lot of the internal growth that I was expecting, as Ken Holland was, hasn't happened. except from Skinner. I think Stu Skinner has had a really good internal development. But of those young players, which ones had that internal growth? There hasn't been a lot. So I think it's fair to be frustrated. But the season's not over. And now people talking about the Oilers not making the playoffs. I think that I'd be blown away if they don't make the playoffs. And that'd be a massive, massive problem for the Oilers heading into the offseason. But I'm not on that train at all.
Eliafi says this team is poorly constructed. Bottom line, this management team is not the one to fix it. So looking for a change in management is Eliafi. I think I'm saying that right. Mike Dursa says, is there a maturity problem with the group? They can beat good teams and lose to lesser. I talked about this on the Morning Mandate today on TSN 1260 radio. I think I don't think it's about maturity, Struds. I see a bunch of like super nice dudes in that room, like really nice guys. And I don't see is a spark. I don't see somebody that will light a fire. I don't see somebody that will, when the team is not bringing what it needs to bring, be the guy that can be and you need different personalities. You need little tensions. You need little goofy little different things that bring that out in a group. This is not an indictment on leadership. I'm not saying that Connor McDavid needs to be more this or more that. He needs to be himself and do what he's been doing because he's been phenomenal. It's more a bigger picture discussion about the dynamic within a group. And that spark of Evander Kane, Mike Smith, these are guys that bring it. They're not in there right now. Do you sense the same thing, Struds, that a bunch of really good guys that get along great is not always the winning formula?
Yeah, I could see that a little bit. I mean, the good teams that I was on, we had some characters, right? And you want guys to be characters, but I think there are a lot of nice guys. But I do believe that if you want to truly be a good team, everyone has to step out of their comfort zone. And I'll give an example. I'm not sure how far of a stepping off this is, but remember when Hyman was playing for the Leafs and he and Mike Smith got into it, and Hyman was all over Mike Smith. And Mike Smith is a big, scary guy with the Undertaker hair. And Hyman was all over him in the crease. Has Hyman done that? Have we seen that from Hyman during this stretch? I'm not saying he's playing bad, but that's a way to get your teammates engaged. Have we seen enough guy block shots who maybe aren't traditionally shot blockers? Go back to the last Seattle game. I'm talking Costin. I'm talking Puljujärvi. I think it was Hollowell. They came out and they were hitting everything out there. Did we see that? Have we seen that often enough? So everyone's got to step out of their comfort zone, right? And give more than maybe what you're used to. Well, I do this well. Oh, good. I'm glad you do that well. But you know what? We need you to do these other things as well. And they don't have that on a consistent basis. And that's, go Bouchard, same thing. Harder in your own zone, like all those things that you need to have that to really. So I think it's in there because we've seen in the playoffs, just not doing consistently. And guys are comfortable.
And it can be a spark in the room that I'm talking about, or it can be a spark with their play, right? What guys have it within them to spark a team with an action on the ice, right? If it's not scoring goals, because that's one of the toughest things to do, what can you do? What can you do to guarantee that you lift energy and you push it in the right direction? You throw a big hit, you have some positive momentum, those sorts of things. And just players needing to do a little bit more of that. Okay, that was the breakdown brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. We're going to talk about the Vancouver Canucks in just a second here, Struds, because did you hear Bruce Boudreau postgame last night?
I did.
Yeah, so we'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to let people hear about it first. But first, we got to talk about the World Juniors. Canada, USA today, pal. Like this is where it really gets to it, right? Because the quarterfinals, you face elimination for the first time as a team, but generally it's a weaker opponent. Canada almost didn't get through. Now, face an elimination against another elite contender. We're going to learn something about Team Canada today.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because just as I talked about the Oilers, I think that Team Canada team has to find a way to have more guys contribute, right? And to bring it. And I would really try to come out and be physical early with this team.
Take a bunch of penalties, you mean?
Probably stay out of the box.
That's what being physical at the World Juniors is now.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's a good point. But you're looking at that top line with Cooley, Snuggerud, and I'm drawing a blank. But they've got a very high top end, and then they've got some very good defensemen. They can move the puck. It's going to be a tough game. This is going to be a very tough game for Team Canada. And the U.S. are going to love it. They love kicking us in the nuts. Oh, God, they love it. They absolutely love it.
It's been the Connor Bedard show so far, and this will be his biggest stage yet to see what he can get done. By the way, my lighting is a mess today. Remember how I said my son came in and knocked my shelf over?
Yeah.
Never got the lights working again. So normally I've got the nice backdrop, nice and lit.
Yeah.
So don't have that. And now I'm having trouble with this lighting. So I got sunlight coming in my window over here. And now I'm all like golden gold colored here. I look like Goldmember or Goldfinger or whatever.
On Golden Pond.
Yeah, on Golden Pond. Well, you are basically the color of a cadaver. You're like gray. Everything is you look.
I think I look pretty good, actually.
You're pretty gray, Struds, to me right now.
I was pretty happy. Not a lot of wrinkles today. I was looking at myself. I'm like, God damn, you look good, son. You're not bad.
That's because of the workout. The endorphins are flowing and
feeling good. Straight teeth.
On. Okay, listen, let's get to takeaways and talk about Bruce Boudreau last night. Brought to you by Sherwood Buick GMC. You're going to want to hear these comments from Boudreau. Just off Baseline Road on the way into Sherwood Park, it's the number one GMC dealership in all of Canada for 5 years running. The all-new redesigned Sierra 1500 is fantastic. I have one. The Denali Ultimate is amazing. And Sherwood Buick GMC actually has inventory too. So if you're in the market for a new vehicle, a new truck, they're a big enough dealership. They do enough volume that they can get their hands on vehicles for you. So highly encourage you to take the drive just off Baseline Road right outside of Sherwood Park or visit SherwoodBuickGMC.com. So the Vancouver Canucks last night, we all know it's been ugly. It's been a train wreck. Bruce Boudreau, many times this season, we've been wondering how long it's going to last with him. They lose 6-2 to the Islanders last night, Struds. And post-game, he's asked a number of questions. 3 comments he made that all stood out to me. I'm going to play all 3 for you, and then we can discuss which ones resonated the most for you. Here is Bruce Boudreau post-game.
As soon as something bad happens to this team, the adversity we cannot handle. And it seems like, here we go. And then that's it. As long as we've got the lead, we're fine. But when we get behind, it's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Then he was asked about his team's apparent unwillingness to block shots. Blocking shots is one of the tougher things to do, and it signifies commitment. Here he is on that.
Only have 5 block shots, and
We had 3 block shots.
3 shot block.
They had 18.
Yeah.
We mention it every day. We talk about it every day. We put it on the wall every day. We understand it. I know that's something that has to be done. I can't go out and make them want to block shots.
And finally, this.
You always talk about the want and the will, Bruce.
Yeah.
You're wondering where the will is.
You're talking to the wrong guy.
Yeah.
I want to win every night.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're talking to the wrong guy. I want to win every night when asked a question about the commitment level of his team. So, I mean, it's a tough scenario out there. I think we all know, what's going to happen with Bruce Boudreau. Of those 3 comments, Struddy, which one was the biggest red flag for you?
Well, first off, I don't think he'll be talking much longer as the coach of the Canucks. Like that sounds like it's getting pretty toxic in there. And this is an indictment of Boudreau or the team, but it's not working right now, right?
Yeah.
And you're just going to keep sucking it down longer. So I don't expect him to hire another coach, but I think that someone else will be coaching that team in short order that's already on that bench. But as far as the one is the will, I mean, to have a coach openly challenge your desire to compete or win or have a will, oh my God, I would be so pissed at myself, at my teammates, at everything. Like that is you're challenging, you've been challenged your desire. And if you as an athlete, professional athlete, have no internal fire to compete, not win, I think is a byproduct of a lot of things, of skill, of having the right team and systems and all that. But if you don't have will or determination as the base of your or foundation of your team, you've got nothing. You've got absolutely nothing. I love playing against guys that were skilled that had no will because I knew I could break them. They could beat me, but I could break them. But I heard that. I saw that this morning. I was just like, oh my God, I would be losing it. I would lose it.
Well, yeah.
And
I want to ask you, as a player in that room, you're mad about the loss. You're beat up. You go home, and you hear that someone sends it to you. You listen to it on TV. whatever. You're sitting on the live stream now and you hear that. As a player in that locker room, what stands out to me there, and Dreg's made this point, I was chatting with him earlier today on our other podcast. He separated himself from the team. You know, it's kind of supposed to be everybody together, right? All for one, one for all. But it just seems like he really separated himself from the team there, Struds. And that has to resonate with the players when they hear that.
Well, it resonated with the GM, as I said earlier. I always felt, I had a coach tell me this, when things are going well, I stand behind you. When things aren't going well, I stand in front of you and take the bullets. And I agree with that 100%. I think that is the best way. And some coaches don't. Some coaches love being in the front. Look at me. Look what I'm doing when things are going well. I think when things are going well, get out of the way. Let the players shine, right? And when it's not going well, you get in front of them and take the heat. But that was clearly Bruce Boudreau sidestepping it. He's getting out of the way and just dropping. Not only did he actually turned on him and started shooting at his own players. So that's why this relationship will end soon. I don't think you have to worry about what does Dusty Nielsen call dirty Bruce Boudreau?
Filthy Bruce?
Filthy Bruce, sorry, yeah.
Dirty.
And so, so you know what, I get it, but when you're losing, you're frustrated and all hell's breaking loose. But that will to compete, if I can say in all my years, I never got challenged from a coach to be about my will to compete. If I would have snapped. Now, the problem is, the reality is there probably are some players that don't have a will to compete, but they're not the ones that need to hear it aren't the ones that aren't listening. They're not listening to it. They're like, he's not talking about me. He's talking about you. If you don't think he's talking about you, he's exactly talking about you.
Yeah. If you're not sure who he's talking about, he's talking about you. I got to hear this comment one more time.
You always talk about the want and the will, Bruce.
Yeah.
You're wondering where the will is.
You're talking to the wrong guy.
Yeah.
I want to win every night.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So he's suggesting there that he wants to win, but his team doesn't want to win. You know, and there's guys, you know, it's just a mess. You know what, though, honestly, if you're another team, you love seeing that because you're like, these guys are a disaster. And, you know, they're not winning at home. They're struggling. They're at home. I saw some stats. It's just awful. It's just a disaster. And, you know, it's when it's not you, you kind of like it.
That's sick. Reveling in other people's struggles. No, listen, Bruce Boudreau has been around a long, long time. And I mean, who knows if there's another coaching job out there for him or not. Sometimes your you-know-what meter is just gone at a certain point in your life and your career. We're all going to reach that point where we Bruce Boudreau our way through a tough situation. And you've earned it at that age, but it's just, it's a tough look, no question.
Well, it's like, you've done that when you start spitting the bit.
Spitting the bit. If I'm being honest, that wasn't a very good example, Strauss. If I'm being honest.
Oh, okay.
Well played, my friend. All right, good stuff. Thanks for doing this, my man. The music is playing. I'm fading it in slowly, which means the live stream, the podcast is coming to an end. Oilers and Islanders tomorrow, and then the Avalanche on the weekend. So a couple of big games for them, and I look forward to doing some more podcasts. Also wanted to let you know, did a roundtable discussion today with Pierre Lebrun, Darren Dreger, and Craig Button. Talked about a whole bunch of stuff. The World Juniors, talked about the Edmonton Oilers, trade situations, Jacob Chikrin. So check out that podcast if you get a chance. Got your back. NHL with LeBrun and Rishaug. Great roundtable discussion today. Struds, you keep performing like this, you're going to find yourself on that pod one of these days, pal.
Oh, no, I'd come in there and just those big wheels wouldn't know what to do.
Like overdrive extraordinaire. Daryl says, thanks, guys. Enjoyed it. Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate your involvement. I like this live stream stuff. We'll do this more often. Like to hear what fans have to say about us and about the Edmonton Oilers. Appreciate your downloads and your subscriptions, folks. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of your day. And a big thanks to Struds. To our title sponsor, Mr. Dirk, Sherwood Buick GMC, DLR Vinyl Products. Thanks, Big Brother Rick, for your feedback. And our good friends at Weiss Johnson as well. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll check in soon, folks. Cheers. I always got to delay until this big music drop right here. Boom. That's a better out cue right there. Breathe for a minute. And then we'll stop.